Welcome back to another episode of the Brew Crew Chronicles. We have a super exciting episode today because we are with Mark and George. Mark is the co-founder of Neighborhood Brewing Co. So thank you for joining me.
No, thanks for having us on.
So I guess today's about finding out who NBC is,
Yeah.
what NBC does, and what you bring to the homebrewing community.
Okay. My name's Mark. I'm the co-founder of NBC. So a bit of a background in NBC. And myself, I began as a home brewer. So I started home brewing probably in early 2000s. Started with extract brewing and fresh wort kits. Moved on to all grain brewing through a grain father. And went sort of got bigger batches as I went. Ended up buying a 125 litre system where I brewed all grain for a couple of years. Started hot cubing my brews and then went from that to the local home brew shop and said, would you consider selling some fresh wort that was brewed on the 125 litre system I did? And they said yes. So we tried it out and sold, started selling fresh wort kits at the local brew shop. Eventually went a bigger scale again, went to a local brewery. We brewed, I think, 1,200 litres per batch in a local brewery in Newcastle. So we're based in Newcastle. And then, we sort of outgrew that and eventually we end up in where I now Brisbane and teamed up with a brewery up in Brisbane here and we're with Ether Brewing and we're now brewing on a bigger scale again. And we sort of continue to grow with it, I suppose. But in a nutshell, we specialise in fresh wort kits for home brewers, and I suppose that's it in a quick intro.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So where did the inspiration of the name Neighbour come into it? Is it because you were brewing out of home? Was it a community thing?
Yeah, I think what we found is we brew and keg the beer and drink it out of a kegerator and just had based with a neighbourhood around at each other's house. There's a couple of friends that would brew, and it would become a neighbourhood type, a gathering of friends, making different types of beer and tasting different types of beer. So it just sort of made sense that the Neighbourhood Brewing Co. sort of that was the brand or the name we come up with.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And then so you talked us through right from the start, your extract to all grain to larger system to larger scale to larger scale again.
Yeah.
What was one of your biggest challenges that you found, maybe initially or up until this point? Was it keeping stock available? Was it moving from a smaller system to larger brewing? The biggest challenge that you found?
Yeah, I suppose we've had, as you grow, you have sort of teething problems, I suppose, and we've had a couple of issues early on. And when we've gone a bigger scale, packaging sometimes has been an issue for us. The bladders we've used, so we've had it in the past. We've had a couple of issues with the packaging and the bladders, which we've moved on to new bladders and overcome those issues. So that was a little bit of a hurdle or thing we had to sort of work through. But that's probably the only real hurdle in terms of the business and the sales of the product. We've been happy with how that's all going and the quality of the beer we make. We get really good feedback on the quality. So probably just the packaging's been our main challenge. Yeah.
And then, so how do you see your role in the wider community? So to me, it's like, where we were home brewers, we just want to share good quality beer with blokes who are also home brewers. Or is there another theme to where you see yourself in the community?
I think where we started with just mates making beer and sharing through the neighbourhood, I think that's sort of where we stand. We haven't got any aspirations to be a commercial brew house or anything like that. It's all about home brew for us. That we specialise in the home brew. We're not a big brewery making beer under our sort of brand or banner. It's all about home brew. So I think we fall in obviously in the homebrew market, we fall in that category of mates drinking beer with each other and, get creative with their beer and experimenting with different things and different tastes, and complementing each other on the beers.
Good. And so for those who are watching, I think most of the viewers are going to be aware of what a fresh wort kit is. So that is the base of all of your products. Do you want to explain what a fresh wort kit actually is?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's basically it's a home brew product. So if you dial it right back, it's a home brew product to make beer at home. It's as an easy way to explain fresh wort is beer before it's fermented. So we brew the wort in a commercial brewery, so it's really high grade commercial fresh wort. So similar to what you would get in any craft brewery or some of the higher end craft breweries around sort of Australia. So it comes in a 15 litre bladder in a box. So bladder in a box, and the home brewer purchases the fresh wort kit. We'll also, generally from your home brew shop, purchase the yeast and some hops with the kit, which is recommended on the box. So we'll recommend the yeast and the hops depending on what style of fresh wort kit it is. They'll take it home. They'll basically tip the fresh wort into a fermenter. They'll add 5 litres of water, pitch the yeast. That'll start the fermentation process of the beer, and after sort of 10 days or so, they'll then package that into a keg or into bottles, and then they have beer. So I sort of went a little bit off track there, but that's
that's the crux of it.
Yeah.
So you basically do all the hard work in terms of picking your grade, creating a recipe, mashing the grade, doing your boil, doing your hop additions. And so my next question was, how does it differ from extract cans to all grain? I think I covered just that in the all grain aspect.
Yeah.
You've taken what would take me 4, potentially 5 hours with some hefty equipment, time, and you've provided that there for me. What's the difference then between the fresh worts and the extract cans? Because we spoke about this off camera. There is vast difference.
Yeah. Look, generally, like I suppose an extract can is a cheaper and a more economical way to make home brew. Fresh wort kit is generally a higher quality beer. The price point is a little bit higher, but what comes with that is the quality of beer. So, like you mentioned, fresh wort kits are really popular just because they're fast and easy. They're probably almost easier than doing an extract can as well, but obviously they're easier than an all grain brewing process. But it's just fast. It's easy. It's generally better quality than an extract can. Yeah, you can experiment a lot with your fresh wort kits as well. So you can sort of falls in that category of, I would say, brewery quality wort to make a beer at home that is on par with some of your craft beers that you buy from a bottle shop.
And I think extract goes through a lot more of a process in terms of evaporation and those type of things, where your wort, it's what we would be making at home if we were doing all grain.
Yeah.
And you've just done all the hard work.
Yeah.
I put one of your kits down this week. I think it took me 7 minutes.
Yeah. You can.
How much better?
It's so much. So George has done all the hard work for me.
Yeah.
And I even said to Jesse, I feel like I'm missing something, because you don't really have to.
No, it's very quick and easy.
There could be an argument that it feels like it might take a little bit of the magic away, but then you remember that there's so much more to brewing than just the brew day itself.
Yeah.
You have that 10 days of fermentation. You do anything you want to your beer as well. So whether it's trying out different types of yeast, hop combinations, if you want to get fun and add some fruits or some spices, you have all the chances to be creative there while you're at it in ways.
For me personally, I prefer more of the drinking process than the brewing. So I'm not missing out. I hate all grain brew days. I just find them so tedious. I like the end product, but you can add basically anything. Types of hops, quantity.
You get really creative with it. We've got a local home brew club in Newcastle that ran a competition that we supplied a lager fresh wort kit, and they basically had a competition to see what beer they could make from just that base of lager fresh work kit. And there was beers from sours to IPAs and everything in between, just from a lager fresh work kit. And some of the beers were like brilliant. So it's that they really showed I suppose the creativity you can have.
And how versatile they can be.
Yeah.
By changing your hops, changing your yeast especially. So are your kits designed for new brewers? Are they designed for very experienced brewers? Where do you see yourself there? In my opinion, you kind of are there for everyone.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. So I think, like, well, if I look back to my sort of experience with home brewing, and a lot of people, they start with extract and then they might move on from extract and they might move on to a fresh work kit, and then potentially they might move on to an all grain. They sort of go through that process. But we find with, I suppose, that all grain brewers still use a fresh work kit. If they get their beer, their stock at home's getting a little bit low and they don't have enough time for a 5-hour brew day, then they'll put down a fresh work kit because it's fast and easy, and they know they're going to get a quality beer from it. So we get the experienced brewers, that an all grain brewer that will still use a fresh work kit, and then you'll also get the beginner brewer that might be moving up from the extract and wanting a more quality beer and moving up. So like you said, it's probably there's a lot of different type, experienced type brewers that use not just beginners but experienced brewers as well.
And then in terms of price, because I think a lot of home brewers move into home brewing for the financial aspect. So we want to be able to save money. And then as a customer walking in, they see the price of, say, an extract tin, and they see the price of a fresh work kit. Can you explain the value that customers are receiving through fresh work kits as opposed to the tin, even though, yes, there is a price variable there?
I suppose we talk about the quality. So you pay for what you get in a lot of things, and in this instance, it's the same. So you're going to pay for a quality fresh work from a commercial brewery compared to an extract can. So the price point's higher, but the quality's higher. And it also depends on the type of beer you're going to make. So, with a home brewer, if you've got a large sort of dry hop, then the hops can be quite expensive. So if you're making a price point, if you're making a New England IPA, for example, which has got a large dry hop, you could be up around sort of $80 or $90 for a fresh work kit. Whereas if you're making a lager or one of our stouts where there is no dry hop, then you could be making a beer for around a little bit over $60. So it depends on the style of beer. The hops add price to that, whether it's doing a fresh work kit or an extract. I think the quality's where
the quality's what you're paying for. I think it's also really important that we note that a fresh work kit makes 20 litres, which is a 19-litre keg, which is the equivalent to 2 cases.
That's right.
Of beer. So we all know what it's like. If we're buying craft beer, we can only get a carton of 12 or 16. You probably could speak better on that. And that's the price we're paying for what is essentially half a keg. Now, George is doing our hard work of brewing our wort. We're getting a brewery quality beer for essentially half the price of what it would be if we walked into Uncle Dan's or Liquorland or wherever it is that we get our craft beer from. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, for sure. I think, alcohol's quite expensive at the moment, so people like to save a dollar with that. So if they can make it at home and get a really high quality product, then and they got a little bit more money in their pocket, then why not? That's part of homebrew too.
Yeah. And then so off the product, but more onto you guys, what do you think sets yourself apart to other fresh works on the market?
Okay, yeah, sure. Look, I think we try and stand by our quality, and try and set ourselves apart by our processes, our raw materials being of high quality, and really trying to provide one of the premium fresh work products that's on the market. So I would say our qualities, yeah. You think that, George? Yeah, that's sort of where we're at with it.
Quality, and really for me, it's freshness of ingredients that we're able to do.
Yeah.
By partnering up with Neighborhood Brewing Company, we've been able to secure different supply contracts for different raw materials, grain and hops, where, for example, since partnering up with Neighborhood Brewing Company, our base malt comes in 5 days out of steeping, out of the malting
Yeah,
process.
wow. So super fresh.
Super fresh.
Yeah.
So just having that capability both for our beers and for the work kits as well, that's fantastic. We're able to secure bigger and better hop contracts with fresher lots across the board. So a lot of advantages with picking Neighborhood Brewing Company, because it is that partnership with that commercial brewery, is just being able to have that real selection of fresh quality ingredients.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge
totally.
winning point for NBC, and for the home brewer that just wants a good beer at the end of the day.
Yeah. And like for me, I would always pick quality over price. And I think there's a lot of people out there like that. If you're on the opposite end, that's fine. But certainly where we want to make good quality beer that tastes good, that we share with our friends, with our neighbors, and it brings us together.
Totally.
So that's our big thing.
For the sake of, if you're going to stinge out and get one of those real thick syrupy kits, for the $10 you're going to save for 20 liters is a lot of beer to have on hand. You may as well enjoy it for an extra 10 or 20 bucks. It's a no-brainer for me.
Cost per SKU is actually very low. And so are you guys experimenting with different styles, or are you just want to stay with the tried and true kits that you currently have?
Yeah, well, we have like a core range of beers. We have a session ale, a lager, a hazy, and a New England IPA. And they've been our 4 sort of core range beers from the start. And we do limited release beers every couple of months, and we might cycle through those. So we do one of our most popular beers is a limited release cream stout. So that's a beer that we release in winter. That's available in some of the shops at the moment. We'll do a limited release West Coast IPA. The Pacific Ale is a limited release.
Is it? That was my pick.
Yeah. So the one you put down, that's limited release. And we're planning to release some new styles like in the next couple of months. So yeah, we'll generally have that core range, and then we'll release new beers through that limited release, every couple of months. So yeah, just keep an eye out for the new ones.
And so how do you decide which style are going to be in that limited release? Do you survey your customers, or do we look at craft beer trends? Do we chat to our home brew
Yeah,
store?
that's a good point. I suppose the beers that are in the core range are tried and tested, and the beers that sell best for us. The cream stout, we initially put that into a limited release because it's more of a seasonal beer, but that's becoming so popular that might end up we might brew that all year round at the moment. There's obviously trends within craft beer that we follow. So obviously all your hazy beers are super popular at the moment. So we've got a hazy pale ale that's one of our best sellers. So we try and stay on trend with what craft beer drinkers want and what home brewers want to make. But in terms of trend, the hazy trend is still pumping. It's well and truly still going. So hazy pale ale is one of our biggest sellers. So
do you think it's going to die out? So this is a topic that it was like the hazy's really been pushed. George is like, no, it's not going anywhere.
I've been waiting for it for years.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's here to stay, the hazy train.
Yeah. And so how do you guys engage with the homebrewing community?
Yeah, sure. I suppose on social media, we engage with customers on social media. We engage with shop owners, over the phone or email. A lot of our customers will engage with homebrew shop owners. Obviously, go into the shop, they might ask the shop owners how to brew, what yeast can I use, what can I, they'll get advice from the shop owner. But yeah, generally social media, our emails as well. That is probably the best point of contact for us. You know?
I think social, like that's obviously all I do now. It just seems like such a great way. We're able to connect, you know, you're in New South Wales, we're all up in Queensland. We can see what you're doing, where you're taking things, the innovation, and we can stay up to date very easily. You know, just pop out your phone, which I think social media is brilliant anyway.
Yeah.
So the next question on the list is, any stories of brewers who've started with your kits and have, you know, taken them further or gone bigger and better?
Oh, look, I think I sort of touched on the home brew club. I think that's probably the best. I think there might have been, you know, up towards 20 members of the local home brew club in Newcastle that all had the lager kit, and really just some of the beers were just exceptional. They're really creative guys, and from a lager, some of the beers they made were just, you know, you wouldn't even thought they could have done that. So that's probably the best I've seen. I'm sure there's other a lot of people experiment with, for example, our West Coast IPA, they might put a lager yeast on our West Coast IPA to brew a cold IPA, or they might, you know, experiment with different hops. Like we have our recommended hops and yeast on each box, and they might experiment with more hops or different type of hop or whatever it might be. So I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that have done amazing things that are, you know, on top of what we recommend that I don't know about. But
we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah,
and
for
I'm
sure.
Mark would absolutely love, and same with George.
Yeah.
What do you do with the kits that is crazy or unique?
Yeah.
Or that you absolutely love?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I've had some feedback. Like one of the home brew shops in Newcastle we supply to, their customers used to give a lot of feedback on experimental sort of hops they use, particularly with hazy pale ale or an IPA. So yeah, there's lots of ways you can get creative, but that's what homebrew is, isn't it? Get being creative in a way.
That's right, and that's a really good segue to my next point. Where do you guys see the home brewing industry for the next 5-10 years? I've seen how much it's changed in 5 years, so a decade may be a bit of a leap.
Yeah.
But what do you think's new coming? How do you think it's going to change?
Look, I think people like things to be done quick and easy, and they don't want to put too much time into it. In terms of like everything in life these days, people want things done fast. I can see, probably the homebrew market going down that path of making, you know, beer easier, faster. So whether that's fresh wort or whatever it might be, I think if things become easier and faster, I think in 10 years we'll see that trend of high quality beer being made easier for the home brewer. Yeah.
Much more efficient.
So
we want to save time, but we still want to enjoy the hobby, and ultimately we want good quality beer at the end of it that we can put our name on and say, oh look, we made that.
I think homebrewers can be really grassroots for the entire brewing industry as a whole, whether that's brewing and commercial brewing. So, like for me, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if a year from now I'm just reading in a magazine and I hear of this completely new, different style of beer that somebody's probably thought up in their garage, and they've just got their club into it. Just get really local from there, start spreading the word on social media and whatnot. I see homebrewing as just a genesis of so many different, really cool, interesting styles.
And that's actually, I will ask you, it wasn't on my list, but what is your opinion to not brewing to style? So, do you have an opinion on it?
Style guidelines are there for guidelines, not hard rules.
Yeah.
You make what you like. If you're that type of person that loves their butter bombs, you go and make that ass fulfill longer, all right? If it makes you happy, do it.
Yeah, it was something I've never really looked much at style guidelines until joining our home brew club, and there's quite a few fellas with their judging certificate, and they put me on to the style guidelines. And you know, you try this beer in our club tasters, and I'd be like, oh, you know, I actually love it. Like, I love this aspect, this aspect, this aspect. And then when you put it to the style guidelines, it's scoring a 30. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is a great beer.
Yeah.
And, you know, they kind of highlighted for me, you can have great beer.
Yep.
You know, but it's because you're brewing out of style, and style guidelines are not the be all and
No, help with a competition, like, you know. I think
if we go on comp, I want to get home.
Yeah.
But
I also find, like, even for comps, they'll use different style guidelines that the styles haven't even caught up, or the style guidelines haven't caught up to what's out there. They're only now just putting Italian Pilsners in the style guidelines in the past couple of years. Italian Pilsners have been out since easily 10, 15 years now. So, you know, if I'm making an Italian Pilsner, where am I going to enter that into a comp?
I saw your black XPA.
Yes.
I've been attempting to look at a black lager. Now, in the style guidelines that I viewed, I may be looking at a home brewer version and not as vast as yours. They have Schwarzbier, but I have not found black lager as a style. And then I saw your black XPA and definitely getting a 4-pack of those. So that's definitely not a style that I've come across.
Nope. That was the genesis of us just kind of sitting around, spitballing ideas, mostly getting on the beers and just an excuse to talk shop, pretty much. Yeah. And I think our general manager just kind of threw out one day, wait, we do a black or we do an XPA? Why don't we do a black? And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, that's the best idea I've heard in the past month.
And so this then, you know, I look at the craft beer industry and get so much motivation from what I want to achieve. And this is where we can bring in things like good quality fresh wort kits, and even people who are all grain brewers, you know, do a mini mash. You know, use, like, how great would you know, your lager fresh wort kit as a base, steep a little bit, you know, it's very small amounts of your dark malts, black lager. You know, like, they're so versatile, and we can just grow and expand on those products very easily.
That just really comes back to the creativity that homebrewers can have with, even though you're skipping that all grain milling mashing step, you can still do a lot with it.
Yeah. It's endless, isn't it? It's just,
And so what is your favorite kit that you've brewed and made?
Look, I would say up to around a couple of years ago, I loved hazy beer as well. And now I don't know if my taste buds have changed or what it is, but I prefer the more piney sort of West Coast IPA, and being creative with West Coast basically. So probably a West Coast IPA or any variation, or being creative with an IPA is probably my favourite beer that we do. The cream stout is also a personal favourite. But that's just me. Everyone's got their own style they like.
If we wanted to take one of your kits and, like, really amp it up, could we turn, like, your Neighbourhood into a milkshake IPA by adding some lactose? You know, like, we can really take it as far as we want to, can't we?
Yeah, definitely. You can like we mentioned, you can get creative with any of those styles, whether it's turning an IPA into a cold IPA, whether it's adding an additive to a stout for, you know, whether it's a coconut additive to a stout, whether it's a peanut butter, or whether it's there's a lot of things you can do with all the different styles of beer. Even a sour beer, sour yeast, like a Philly yeast on a lager, some frozen fruit in the fermentation, a fruit sour. It's endless what you can do with all the different styles of beer. A sour beer is probably one of my favourites, a fruit sour from a lager base with just a Philly sour yeast. With, you know, if we're making 20 litres, we generally use around about 1 kilo of frozen fruit. I find that, like, your berry type sours, I prefer that. So, like, it can be just either 500 grams or 1 kilo of frozen fruit from the supermarket. Let it thaw a little bit and mash it. While it's starting to soften, you can just throw that straight in your fermenter. Probably day, 2 or 3 even after your yeast is taken off. So generally, like I said, I like the berry style sours, but there's all different options there. You can use pineapple, you can use mango, you can use lots of different styles. But that's just that sour style of beer with a lager fresh wort kit. And then obviously being the hazy beers being really popular. The dry hop combination of a hazy is endless. So there's so many different styles of hop that you can use in a hazy beer now. Being in a home brew shop, I'm sure you've seen people the most common thing for a home brewer to do is probably experiment with the dry hop. So the dry hop combinations of it are endless. So it's a good way, I think, for a home brewer to start getting creative is probably with the dry hops. An easy way to do it. But don't forget the yeast, because the yeast is another way you can really get creative as well.
And that kind of dictates your style as well, which I think is important. So do you have any long-term goals for Neighbourhood Brewing Co? I think we've gone over, there's so much that even with the range that you have, you can take it so far. So are you happy with the range how it is because it is so versatile, or are there long-term goals that, you want to chase after and hit?
Yeah, we want to keep bringing out, fresh styles of beer. There's definitely styles of beer we haven't brought out yet that we're planning to bring out. So we want to continually bring out new beers. We want to keep the quality really high. We've trying to iron out some issues we've had with our packaging in the past. So we've sort of moved past that now. We think we're on top of that. So yeah, it's a work in progress. We want to get better and better, keep the quality high, get on top of any issues with packaging. We've done that, bring out new styles, and that's sort of our plan to continually do fresh work, because we've got those aspirations to become a brewery or make beer on a commercial scale. It's just all about fresh work, kids for home brewers.
And so where do you see NBC in 5 years?
Hopefully we're still working with the guys here at Ether. We're stoked with these guys. We got a great partnership with Ether, so we don't want to go anywhere else. We want to stay here. I don't know. We might venture into new styles. We might there might be new sizes, or like a 10-litre batches or anything. We're always talking about new things we want to do, but just one step at a time, I suppose. We just want to keep the quality high, and we'll see
and
where it
that's the
takes us.
primary goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
We would rather stay where we are, where we know quality is super high, people are really happy, than jumping into a big dream that we have and compromising on the product that our customers are going to get.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
not what we want.
No.
And so for someone who's new to brewing, what kit would you specifically recommend?
Look, I think a lot of people that go, or what I've seen in home brew shops, a lot of people that start with home brewing might start with a lager, and I don't necessarily think that's
You
right.
don't really like lagers either.
I love lagers. Hard to brew.
Yeah.
Hard to brew.
Right, because it's terrible.
Yeah.
Novice?
So there
Novice.
seems to be with beginner home brewers, there seems to be people think lager is an easy beer to make, and people start with a lager. Well, I wouldn't go down that path. I would make an ale. So So whether it's our session ale, whether it's our hazy pale ale, I'd start with an ale with an ale yeast. The temperature control on it's a whole lot easier, and you can't really go wrong with an ale. I think for a beginner, start with an ale.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And so where can we find the Neighbourhood Brewing kits, and how can customers order them?
So at your local home brew shop. So we're stocked all around Australia. Our distributor up here in Brisbane, Bevy distributors all around Australia. So you can find it at your local home brew shop. And if your local home brew shop doesn't have it in stock, they can contact us direct, and we can put you in contact with our distributor. Otherwise, you can contact Bevy, our distributor, and they'll help you out with that. Yeah.
And I think I always kind of push people, if your local home brew shop don't stock something that you want, any good home brew shop, if you ask to order it in, they'll order it in. You are supplied by a very large distributor in the industry, and so ask the question.
Yeah.
Because there is no harm. Very likely that they're doing orders anyway. Reach out. Hey, I really want to try this. Most, I think, homebrew shops will happily oblige. And so how can we stay connected with you guys? We spoke about social media.
Yep.
You said your emails. So
Yep.
is social the best?
Social media is probably either Facebook or Instagram will probably our main channels for communication for customers. Yeah, so whether it's the home brew shop that wants to deal with us direct, or generally a customer at the home brew shop, yeah, social media is fine. We get a lot of messages through social media requesting tips on how to brew, or what might be a different yeast to use, or what another option for a dry hop. So obviously we list the yeast and the dry hop on the packaging, but we mentioned how home brewing is about being creative. So we get all sorts of questions around, what's another option for a dry hop? Can I use this yeast? What temperature should I ferment this yeast? So you can contact us direct, and we'll get back to you. As soon as we can.
And final words for the home brewing community. Like, I know we've spoken quite in depth today,
Yeah.
but is there any parting words that you want to leave with the listeners?
Look, I think like what if we get back to how we started was about, making quality beer with mates. It's a social thing. Have a few beers with some mates. Get creative with your beer and enjoy it. It's all about having fun. And hopefully we can make that job a little bit easier for you, a little bit faster with our fresh wort. But yeah, enjoy your fresh wort with your friends, and get creative. That's what I would say.
And I think, we've cracked a beer and had a very wonderful conversation, and that's what it's about. You never know where cracking an NBC work kit that you brewed could take you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'll put all your details in the show description, so you'll be able to check out all the social media handles, the website, and see the full kits that you guys supply.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks
Until next
for
time.
having us on.
Thank you.
Thank you.